Greetings guys, this is Ohio Dan. The topic for today's video is, you will work for free. And what I'm referring to with that sort of headline is men's expected roles that they're supposed to play in relationships, at least according to the traditional model, and I would argue just as much today, versus women's gender roles. And this is something that I have not really seen, that I can remember at least, explicitly stated by any content creator in the men's community. So I thought I'd take my shot at explaining this, that a big problem we have with gender roles, for people that still want to be in relationships, for the normies around us, so to speak, is that while women's gender roles are performance-based over time, and also largely rejected on that basis by women collectively today, men's gender roles are built into the dating dynamic from the beginning, from the first potential interactions between a man and a woman. And a lot of this seems to be lost on people. There seems to be this struggle to understand why relationships tend to be so one-sided in favor of women, why it is that men seem like they invest so much more and women can just move on very easily. Part of that is based on biology and just more of an ability, frankly, to move on from a relationship. That is one area that women have an advantage over men in general. They can more easily just find the next person that they want to be with. But the reality is that men are expected to invest a lot more because most women simply will not express an interest in dating men, seriously dating men, who are not already successful at performing the expected provider and protector role that men have always been obligated to perform on behalf of women, children, and society. That has not really gone away in terms of what's actually expected of men. It's just that women don't date the men that can't already meet those prerequisite criteria. If you're not able to perform those gender roles, you just don't get to be in a relationship. And this is minus a lot of the stuff that we see today with looksism. I'm not talking about women's really high standards for how a man is supposed to look, although it's definitely true that there really is no equivalent to women expecting men to make six figures, although that plays right into the provider role that I'm talking about here. Being 6 feet tall, which you have very little control over. Having six-pack abs, which, depending on your genetics, you may not have a lot of control over that as well. It just depends on your body type, your build. But all that being said, men really are not allowed to have expectations of women, because their expectations, the traditional gender roles that women used to perform, are indeed performative. They are based on looking at what a woman does or doesn't do over time. It used to be, do you cook? Do you feed the kids? Do you spend time playing with the children? Do you have a clean home? Are you doing a good job while I'm at work taking care of the home base, basically, taking care of the family while the guy is required to provide his labor at whatever activity allows him to make money and have resources. So what happens is there's a plausible deniability that exists when it comes to gender-based expectations that women have for men, because they are the selectors. They are the ones that decide whether they're going to date you seriously or not. They are the ones that expect men to do all the legwork, approach them. But it's not just the obvious legwork. It's everything that that man may have done or not done in his life that he had any sort of ability to affect, like working hard, being successful, essentially making sure that he was at least superficially attractive to women. There are elements of that you don't have much control over, but especially with the provider and protector role, he is expected to have already succeeded on that basis. He is expected to already be in a position to seriously date you based on what he can provide to you and any potential children before the average woman is even dating him. And this is, again, not even looking at women's sky-high standards for men when it comes to looks, sky-high standards for men when it comes to success and status. It's gotten completely out of control recently, but even if you want to put that to the side and assume that you're dealing with a woman that is better grounded than the average woman today, that is actually able to see kind of realistically who would be a good relationship partner, instead of expecting a man that doesn't even exist to sweep her off her feet at 38 years old and not having the looks or not having the position where you're going to have a family with him anymore at that point. For the women that are more reasonable, even those women are looking at men that are already going to be good providers and protectors. They're already looking for a man that has been successful at running the race so that she can pick the winner that is realistic and actually wants to be with her, for those women that are still somewhat grounded. And so women's preferences in reality require these expectations of men to be met as a prerequisite in order for most men to have a realistic chance at any success in the dating market. And we know this as guys. If you're broke, if your health's not very good, if you're not very good looking, even though that's not really what I'm focusing on in this particular video, that's become a major thing where women only want men that are basically hot, and it's only the very top tier men that fit that criteria. But even just looking at the provider, provision, and protecting aspect of it, women still want masculine men. They want successful men. They want men that are financially stable, that have their own home, that basically make her feel safe, that can play that provider and protector role, and they offer nothing in return for it because their gender roles are more obvious. They're not built in. They're performative based. If you tell a woman that she needs to make you a sandwich, that's considered sexist today, but expecting a man to make a certain amount of money, be economically attractive and whatnot, that's built in to the whole dating process before it even gets off the ground. And so that's seen as perfectly acceptable. Part of that is due to gynocentrism and essentially misandry, right? Being able to say that men should just do these things anyway and shouldn't expect anything in return. A lot of that is just part of the culture that we have today after generations of feminism convincing women that they deserve to have it all. But even for, again, the more reasonable woman out there, she's still looking for a guy. If she's going to seriously date a guy and not just ride the carousel, so to speak, she's going to be looking for a guy that's successful. She's going to be looking for a guy that allows her to feel safe. She's going to be looking for a guy who's stable, mentally stable, financially stable, gives her a place to essentially fall back on if bad things befall her in life. Women want that, and yet the idea is that men should get nothing in return for that. That's where you will work for no pay comes in. You're just expected to do the things that men have always done, and then once you do that, everything is 50-50, right? No, it isn't, because of the investment that the man had to put into that situation for you to even want to be with him in the first place. So the result of all this is that only men have gender roles that they're required to perform before the relationship even happens, before she'll even date you, while expecting anything comparable from a woman, like the things that they used to do traditionally, or like really anything else, any of the things that men have always done. You're not allowed to expect anything from a woman. How dare you? That's usually considered sexist. And the result of this is absurd. The result of this is that men, at some level, a lot of guys, even the men that have not been introduced to some of the concepts that we talk about in the men's community, they realize, man, other than just the idea of getting laid, I don't get anything out of this. And frankly, women are going to sleep with the men that they find attractive anyway, for the most part. There are some women that won't, but the majority of them will just go off with the chads, so you're really not going to get sexual access. You're not going to get exclusive intimacy. At best, you're just going to have to be expected to pay for something that other men got for free by investing your time and resources and effort. And then they don't do anything that women used to do either. They don't take care of the home. They can literally have an abortion and kill your kid if they want to, in most cases. I know that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but in many cases, they can literally do that, and there's nothing that you can say or do as a guy in that situation, even if you wanted to have a kid. Even if you were trying to have a kid together and you were in a relationship, if she breaks up with you, she can either have the kid anyway and then sue you for child support, or she can destroy it. Like, that's not really something that you have any realistic, true access to as a man, because she's not obligated to do that with anybody. And marriage, having a relationship for a number of years, all that can be thrown away for any or no reason. And so what do you get out of it? She's not going to cook. She's not going to clean. She doesn't have to have your children. And I don't mean have the children like you force it upon her, but if you agree to do that, then she shouldn't have the right to just destroy it for no reason, but she does. And so ultimately, guys are getting the short end of this, and it's just a you will work for free or you're part of the problem message. Even from the traditional conservative voices, you hear this, that you're supposed to sign up for this and just be a martyr for the cause because of your nation or because of your manhood or because of anything else that really isn't in your own self-interest to defend, frankly, in the way that it is constructed, in the way that it is presented. There's no benefit of trying to satisfy people that just want you to basically sacrifice yourself in terms of what you could do without that woman, what you could do without that family, when that family's not really yours anyway and can be taken so easily from you. And that's the other aspect of this, is that even if things seem to be going well, she can still use no-fault divorce to take your kids away and to take the house and everything else. And so really, at the end of the day, guys are looking at this and saying, what am I really getting out of it? And the response from society and from the majority of women, I would say, is you will work for free or you're part of the problem. You're just as bad as the feminists, or you're just not a real man, and you don't care about your country and your society, and so on and so forth. But there's nothing that changes the fact that you don't really get anything, for the most part, out of long-term committed relationships from a guy's point of view. And so anytime that men voice concern over this one-sided arrangement that's in place concerning gender roles, they're just told that it's sexist to expect anything from women. You shouldn't be a Peter Pan. You should be able to take care of yourself. Women shouldn't have to offer you anything. But then we're only going to seriously date the guys that can provide the lifestyle we want, or you're economically unattractive if you can't meet that standard. And that's after getting dicked down by all the chads and partying for however many years and not really being loyal and not having any integrity and just doing whatever we want. You should just be there to accept your provider-protector role. How dare you ask anything of us? That's basically what women are coming at men with in society today. That's the predominant message to men. And so, of course, this creates very little incentive for a self-aware man, a man that realizes where things actually stand between men and women in society, who's aware of many aspects of male nature and female nature and how they differ, what's required for a relationship to work, what can easily sabotage that relationship. It creates very little incentive for men that are aware of these things and that value their own well-being, frankly, to take the idea of committed relationships seriously in this current environment, given how things are. And so the point of this video is to basically say, because there is this fake 50-50 idea where it's 50-50 on the surface because the guy does half the cleaning, the guy does half the cooking, the guy does half the yard work. But at the same time, he was expected to invest so much more before that relationship even got off the ground. And now the woman essentially is not doing anything for him. You could do 100% of your own daily life activities instead of doing 50% of yours and 50% of hers. If you just had your own place and lived by yourself, you're not gaining anything. And then there's all the other elements that are at play, the domestic violence laws that are in her favor, the fact that she could probably weaponize your kids against you. She has all the reproductive power. She can essentially take your house in many cases and take half of your other stuff through the divorce process as well. stick you with child support for kids that you may not get to see, and so on and so forth. I know that I'm using extreme examples here, but these are all things that could viably happen that are quite terrible if you're a guy that's listening to this, and yet asking her to make you a sandwich is sexist. Expecting a woman to play any sort of gender role is considered sexist because it's performative based over time, and it's obvious to see what those expected roles are, and for women to say, oh, we don't want to do those things anymore for you. But men's gender roles are not performative based in the sense that they have to be done up front. They don't occur through the relationship, except in the sense that she can leave you if you lose your job or your health or whatnot. But you're already expected to be successful. You're already expected to have checked those boxes before a woman even wants to be with you. And again, I do believe this is still your average woman, even if in her mind she's settling, right? She's settling for a guy that's a provider and protector because she couldn't get Chad or whatever guy that she idolizes as the perfect masculine man that doesn't exist. So she's settling for you in many cases from her point of view, but as well, she's not going to do anything for you. It's still going to be totally one-sided. And then the superficial things get to be 50-50 because she doesn't have to perform any gender roles in particular, like cooking for you or taking care of the home or raising your kids well. She can have her job and her money is her money and your money is our money. And then she can take half of it in a divorce anyway. So a lot of guys are figuring this out, even if they can't necessarily put their finger on what it is. But there's a major difference between men's gender roles and women's gender roles. Because men's gender roles, maybe the language that I'm using, performative versus being built in to the dating dynamic. But whatever terms you want to attach to that, men are expected to be successful up front because women are the selectors. Men are the ones that have to run the race. Women wait at the finish line and then pick the winners, and then they say it's 50-50. And it's not. And at some level, a lot of guys are figuring this out just intrinsically. They're realizing, well, I can do 50% of your stuff and my stuff, or I can just focus on me instead of that and not be in a relationship and not take any of this seriously. You're not doing anything for me anyway. Having kids is a super expensive and potentially dangerous prospect because of the way that women can weaponize their kids against you, because you're basically providing kids to her in essence. So why do it? And a lot of guys are figuring this out. It's just going to continue to snowball. And even though there are men that women will still be able to marry, they're going to be the kind of men that women don't really want to be with. And there's a lot of other factors that go into that. I'm not going to make this video longer than it already is. But the you will work for free or you're part of the problem mindset seems to be what men are told. That perspective seems to be what is displayed, what is exhibited to men. And the guys that have figured this out are not going to respond in a positive way to that. That's more or less the main conclusion here. Guys are not going to take this seriously. They're going to realize that they're getting the short end of the deal. They're getting the shafts, so to speak. They're not benefiting from these long-term committed relationships. Unless you feel like you need to have kids, there's really no reason to take it seriously. And this is just going to continue to snowball and become more and more skewed and one-sided. And guys are just going to opt out of marriage and having families because, again, why do this? Why work for free just because people are telling you that's what you have to do? There's no benefit. More men are figuring this out. And really, at the end of the day, it's women in society that are going to pay the price for it, not the individual men that decide that if they're not going to benefit from women doing any of the traditional gender roles, they're not going to do anything else for you, they're going to claim that it's 50-50, and then they can take half your stuff anyhow. A lot of guys are just going to opt out of that, and this is kind of a warning to society, I guess. This is kind of a warning to women that are still trying to find so-called good men that unless this changes, more men are just going to quit on the traditional, conventional dating, long-term relationship dynamic.